In episode 43, I discuss backing up your Lightroom catalog, recipe-driven photography, and also, if you get help from someone while taking a picture, is it really yours? Episode 43 starts now. Hi guys, my name is Gerry, I'm from Walt, and this is episode 43 of the wildlife photography series in which I answer your wildlife photography related questions. So what's been happening? It is short week this week. It's Tuesday now filming this, and we've had a public holiday yesterday. There's one coming up on Friday and there's one on the following Monday. So in a way it's nice because it gives us time to catch up on some admin and things, which the way the last while's been going, nice battle stations in a good way. But we're catching up on email stuff, but there's so many people not at work that you don't get the answers back you want. So if I sent you a mail, please get back to me. Anyway, some good questions coming through, guys. I like where this is going. I just had Marlon record all the voiceovers for me for the questions for this and for the next episode. Some very, very cool questions. Thank you. Keep them coming. I just posted on my Snapchat as well. And watch, here it is for this episode. Follow me on Snapchat over here. Daily doses of what happens in the life of a photographic guide. It's not always in the field. So from the office, from home, the dogs, just life in general. But it's a great sharing platform. And also, I spoke to Marlon a bit early on. We're going to be back in Sabi, the entire Wild Eye team from the 4th of April. I'll be there till the 13th. We're running our annual wildlife photography seminar. We're going to be Snapchatting the shit out of this thing. Everybody's going to be on there. Some good content coming your way. So it won't just be me talking, thank goodness. It'll also be some leopards, lions, wildlife, and then lodge life. So from the 4th of April, back on safari, and that goes for Periscope as well, for those of you following on Periscope. Anyway, enough of that. Episode 43, 5 questions starting now.
Simon asked on WhatsApp, what backup strategy do you follow for your photos? With data costs coming down, have you explored the option of storing everything on the cloud? Also talk about options for where, how, and why you should back up your Lightroom catalog.
Thank you, Simon. For those of you that do have my number, you're more than welcome to send your WhatsApps with questions as well, like Simon did. I dig it. Nice surprise this morning. Honestly, Simon, I haven't looked at the cloud options just yet. More to do with not the cost of bandwidth and connectivity, but the service thereof. I mean, at the office here at the Design Quarter in Four Ways, it's very intermittent. We've got a building full of people companies who do design, graphic design, social media companies in the building here. And it seems like every day 2:30, the tap just turns off and our connectivity drops to nothing. So that's probably the main reason I haven't looked at it. I've got Wi-Fi up at home as well. It probably would be worth it, but I haven't really looked at it, again, not from a cost point of view, but from a connectivity point of view. It'll irritate everything out of me if I have to sit and wait for everything to upload every single time. I get we can do it over time, but I think that's my main reason. So backing up for me is, obviously you need double backups. When I'm in the field, I will shoot on camera. I will then import through Lightroom onto an external hard drive. Yeah. I also create smart previews in Lightroom, which acts as a real last end type of backup. When I get home then, I also keep my images on the cards while I'm in the field. Then when I get back home, I will duplicate all my raw files from that trip onto another hard drive, which is a hard backup. That goes in the cupboard somewhere. And then I run my Lightroom, I run off one external hard drive for raw, one external hard drive for my catalog. And then once I've created smart previews, this hard drive also goes away. So I've got 2 hard copies of my raw files at all given times. I find that's the easiest. We have had also, goodness, I can't speak today. For those of you that have not looked at creating smart previews, look at it. We've had recently in the office, Jono had a hard drive crash, very sad, long story. And we were able to get a lot of the images back because we created smart previews, which is a raw file DNG inside of Lightroom that you can then pull out and save as a new file again. So as a last resort, if the shit hits the fan, it does work very well. So Simon, yeah, short version again for me, don't go into the cloud yet because of connectivity, just the quality thereof at this stage. Probably will look at it in the future if it gets better. But for me, I've always got 2 hard copies once I get back from a trip, and then my DNGs as a part of Lightroom's smart previews. Now, the second part of the question is how to back up your Lightroom catalog. This is an important thing, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around how to do a blog or a video to explain this to people. I had another Lightroom tutorial. Been doing a lot of those private Lightroom sessions with people this morning again, where people think that Lightroom is just built around the develop module, which is the Photoshop, if you want to call it that, part of it. The strength of that program is the cataloging side. Now, in a short version of this, Lightroom creates a catalog, which is all of your images. Your images don't live in the catalog, they live in a folder. So the folder is your raw files, which gets backed up elsewhere, and then your catalog file sits separately from them. Now, Simon, for me to back it up, I take my Lightroom catalog. There's 3 files in there. There's the data file, there's the one-to-one preview or your preview file, and then your smart preview file. Those 3 make up a Lightroom catalog. Once I get back from a trip and I've imported all the new images in, I've created my previews, I've created my smart previews, I will then, onto one of my externals that I spoke about earlier on, I've got a backup directory, and then I'll copy those 3 files across onto one of them. That sits there. So if something were to happen to my main catalog, I could go back there. I might lose the changes I've done from here to here, but at least I can get it back. And then every time I get back from a trip, update the images, update the previews, update the smart previews, delete the one off the external, and put my catalog on there. So that for me works very, very well. I'm in a rhythm like that. I think it's important that you have a structure as to how you manage your catalog, but that works very well. So at any given time, I have my working catalog, which I can plug into any computer and work. I'll do a blog on this sometime. And then I've got the latest backup, which, like I've said to some of you who've been on courses with me, is you only get 2 kinds of hard drives, broken ones and ones that are going to break. So you need to make sure you always have a backup of your Lightroom catalog files and your raw stuff. Good question, Simon. But like I said, I'm going to just give it some thought. Maybe over these public holidays, play around with some diagrams and stuff that I can do a nice blog on this, because it's one of the most misunderstood things in Lightroom.
Ruben asked via email, is there any difference or advantage to selecting focusing points either 21 or 51?
Ruben, interesting question again, and it points to me to a thing where people often overthink photography. They think because they can do all these amazing settings and they've got 51 focus points, not 75, they can only do whatever. People overthink this stuff. So for those of you just to get on the same page, what Ruben is talking about is you could have focus points across the frame, up and down, either 21 of them scattered, for example, 7 by 3 or something, or you could have 51, which will be 9 by 5, whatever the case, across. So if I wanted to move my focus point from here to here, I can either go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 clicks across on my dial, or 9, whatever the case is. Now, you cannot look at this in isolation. You cannot just say, I want 21 or 51. I prefer, me personally, to have as few as possible. Why? Because if I want to move a focus point from this side to this side, I want to move as few clicks as possible. I don't want to be stuck going, oh my God, the leopard's going to jump off the tree, and you keep on moving this across. Do as few as possible. Then, and this is vital, turn your camera on so that you shoot with a back button focus. I might even not even do those focus points, because I use my center focus point, I back button focus on the area I want to have, lock focus, recompose, and shoot. So instead of moving the focus point from here to here, I will take my middle focus point, focus on that spot, lock focus, recompose, and shoot. So if we simplify your question, Ruben, I want to have as few as possible. I want to be able to move across the frame with as few clicks as possible from this side to that side. Yeah? You can always fine tune it then. But if you have back button focus on and things like 3D tracking, which will try and stay with the point that you lock on, it kind of becomes pointless to have so many to move across. So simple answer, as few as possible. More advanced answer, it will depend on what focus mode you use and whether you back button focus or not. Go and check out the blog. I'll put the link down here. Go and check the blog and search the website for back button focus. There's some amazingly valuable content there that every wildlife photographer should be reading. Nice one, Ruben.
Asti asked on Instagram, do you have go-to settings in each mode? For example, aperture priority, do you favor an f-stop and ISO setting? In shutter priority, do you have a preferred shutter speed for flying birds versus moving animals? Also, for spotlight backlit photography, I assume you switch to manual and play with aperture, shutter speed, and ISO to get the right composition. Do you have a go-to spotlight setting that works more often than not? I guess the reason I'm asking is that there are so many things to try and remember before taking a shot, and often it's too late while I'm considering the range of options. Are there some go-to settings that you keep in handy for certain situations?
Wow, Asti, there's a lot in there. So I actually had to print this because I'm not going to get to all of those and remember them. I have a problem with both photography or in-camera photography and Lightroom or post-processing being based on recipes. The reason is, let me just pull it to Lightroom quickly. Often people will say, oh, can you save me your Lightroom preset so that I can use them on my images? Think about this. It's not going to work because the content is different, the light is different. So it doesn't matter what preset you use if the scene, the subject, the light, your settings weren't the same, that preset means jack. Now, I always shoot in aperture mode. Bar 92% of the time. 92% of the time I shoot in aperture mode. The few occasions where I go out of aperture mode is when I'm shooting stars, for example, where you have to be in manual mode to get all that light in. I'm trying to pull all these questions together. I think the important thing is if you understand, and you definitely do understand, the combination and the way that ISO, shutter speed, and aperture plays together, you don't need to change out of there. Shutter speed mode, never. I never ever shoot there. Because, stick with me here, I've done this before, but let's do this again. I can be focused on a scene, a bird that's about to fly. Yeah? Or no, cancel the bird, we'll get to a bird. Zebra that's going to run. Yeah? He's standing still, I want to blur the background. I dial in 2.8. Camera gives me, because I'm in aperture mode, the camera gives me a shutter speed of, for example, 1000. I can freeze that and blur the background. Now, that animal starts moving. I don't want to be stuck with move camera, change shutter speed mode to shutter speed mode, dial in a shutter speed and then shoot. Because if I take my aperture from 2.8 up to, for example, 16, the camera will, to battle that from an exposure point of view, bring my shutter speed from 1000 down to, for example, a 30th, and I can pan. So within 3 clicks of my finger, I can be at a panable shutter speed. Because I understand that. I don't have to have a preset for X, Y, and Z. I understand where the question is going, but I think instead of worrying about planning out these presets, actually, I think it's more important to get a deeper and proper understanding of how these things work together. Let me just read through here. Go to each, no, I don't. Shutter speed priority. Do you have a preferred shutter speed for flying birds versus moving animals? No, I don't. I will, if I'm shooting a bird, I will normally try and be above 1000, but I will just do that by either pushing my ISO up in aperture mode, or if necessary, opening up my aperture to 2.8 or 3.5. That would give me the shutter speed I need. For animals, it depends on the look and the feel. I mean, I might want to photograph an elephant walking crisp with everything frozen. I will go 500th of a second and up. If I want to have that elephant with the majority of it crisp, but maybe with movement in the foot, I'll be playing in the 1/60th region. To think of it as a recipe-driven thing, as I think is setting it up for failure. I think you're going to be so worried about which recipe to plug in that you're not going to be tapping into, which is vitally important, the look and the feel and the moment of what is it that you want to capture. If you're just going to put a blueprint on it, it's always going to look the same. I love, and I do this with all my clients, private guided photo safaris and workshops, I make people play around. Bank the shot first. Bank the shot. Get the crisp frozen thing with the animal frozen. Then, as quick as you can, because it's a good exercise, close the aperture, do it again, because as you close your aperture down, you get a slower shutter speed. And each of those different shutter speed presents a different type of image. If someone ever sits in a sighting and they say, oh no, I've shot the scene, there's nothing else I can do, they're wrong. There's always more you can do. Play with different shutter speeds, different apertures. So, I mean, am I missing something here? I assume you switch to manual and play with aperture shutter speed for spotlight. No, I don't. Most of the time I stay in aperture, I punch my ISO up. I'm not scared to go up to a 3200 on spotlit photography because there's going to be a lot of deep dark blacks, which is where my noise hides. But when I underexpose it and I meter, for example, off the rim light or the spotlight on the face of the leopard, then those blacks are going to be black. I'm not going to have that much noise, and I just expose for this. The thing is this again, and I think it comes to overthinking some of these things again, is you've bought that camera. It's an amazing piece of equipment. Let it do what it's designed to do. You're not going to drive a Ferrari you're not going to buy a Ferrari and drive it at 20 kilometers per hour. You're going to drive the shit out of that thing because that's what it's for. So let the camera do what it does. I'm of the opinion that if I'm in the field and I'm going to shoot a spotlit animal, if I have to think and compute and make the changes for aperture, shutter speed, and ISO, you're going to miss something, guaranteed. You're going to miss shots because you've got too much things to worry about. If I'm in aperture mode, I can push my ISO up, which gives me a shutter speed. I can then use aperture as open as I can and compose and fire. Because when I think of spotlight photography, you want to be open as possible. It doesn't matter what the background is, it's black. So this question could be discussed for a very long time. And I know for those of you that are coming to our seminar in 2 weeks' time, we're going to be doing a lot of this. So don't overthink these things. Decide for yourself how much you're willing to put into your camera and let the camera do, and you just do the bare minimum. Focus on the artistic side of it, and the technical side, let the camera do that. It's an interesting one. What else? I guess the reason I'm asking is that there are so many things to try and remember before taking the shot, and it's often too late while I'm considering the range of options. I think therein lies the problem, is the range of options should be based on what do you want to create and choose the setting that fits with it. Don't go recipe driven. I mean, if you're looking which recipe fits with this, none of them might fit, but you're going to be stuck as to which recipe to try and fit. Not going to work. So for me, my suggestion to you is the best I can give you is focus on the basics. Understand aperture, shutter speed, and ISO, and use them as and when needed to create the images that you have in your mind. It'll beat recipe-driven photography any day of the week.
Lynn asked on Facebook, if you help a client with composition settings, etc., whose image is it? I've spent time with professional and experienced photographers, whether I'm paying or not, to try and increase my skill set, and I often get the impression that some folks consider that the images taken then aren't really mine. I always freely admit when I have had help or advice, but I liken it to learning to drive. The instructor is in the passenger seat, but the learner is driving the vehicle. Would be interested to hear your thoughts.
Lynn, this is a very, very interesting one, and I can't actually think why anybody would try and convince you that image is not yours. You took the image, it's yours. Whichever help you got, hey, good for you. You assimilated that information, used it, and produced a good image. I mean, if you say that you spend time with experienced professional photographer, there's the word again, professional. Watch the last couple of episodes. And for that reason, it's potentially not your image. That means if you've read any books, any blogs, watch any of my videos, you've gotten assistance and information from that, which means it's also compromising whether it's your image or not. It's complete rubbish. Your analogy that you use is brilliant, by the way, that as a drive instructor, I'm teaching you how to drive. You are driving. You make an accident, you did it. Yeah? You drive well, you did it. The instructor is just a means to an end. And that's the same with, like I said, blogs, videos, in the field tuition, private tuition, and I think the nice thing is that there's a learning process. Any photographer who shoots in isolation is going to lose. He's not going to grow or get the stimulation. It's all part of the photographic and artistic process. You have to get that information. So there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that it's your image. I don't care how much help you got. I mean, there's wedding photographers who, they are the brand. Let's, for example, I'm not going to use any names, Gerry's Wedding Photography, right? I then have an assistant who does the makeup on the brides. They set up the shot, they move the tripod, they dial in the settings. Me as the superstar photographer just walks in and goes, click. Someone then processes it, yet I take the money and it's my shot. That becomes a bit dodgy. But for you, as a wildlife photographer in the field to get tuition, it is 150% your image. And I cannot see any kind of argument that will make me change my mind on that. I mean, I think it's great that you get the help. Go on safaris, go on workshop, shoot with people, steal. Learn as much as you can. Steal their ideas, steal their techniques, and make it your own. Don't just copy for the sake of copying, but just use all that information, assimilate, and produce something nice from it. It's an interesting question. Nice discussion possible there.
Benina asked on Instagram, is it possible to get feedback and ideas on how to make pictures better and tips on how to process it if we sent them to you.
Interesting one, Benina. I like this, but I'm not going to answer it. I'm going to throw it back to you guys. Would you like to see, for example, or have the ability to send an image in from a crit point of view? We end off each of these videos with an image that I choose out of the ones that's been sent in and discuss it critically but positively. So constructive criticism. Is that something you would like to see? Leave me a comment and let me know, because I'd love to add something like that in here. Interesting one, I like that. Cool. That's it for episode 43. Some interesting and tough questions in there, because you could argue them for days and days and days and days, but I'm going to stick to my thing of simplify the process, keep it simple. The more advanced you want to go, the more difficult you make things, you're going to miss shots, but more importantly, you're going to miss the experience of being out there in the field doing wildlife photography. Let your camera do what it does. Learn as much as you can. Take what you need from different people in the field. Don't go recipe driven. Don't ask people for their presets. Do your own if you need to. Still, recipe driven is not going to work. Do it for yourself and learn your craft well enough. Look, I'm all about the artistic, make no mistake, but you need to understand the technical so well that you can execute against your creative vision. Then you're going to win. So, love these questions. Keep them coming. Interesting ones lined up, which I'll think about tomorrow. There's 4 of them, and I'm going to hope to try and get the second video out this week by Thursday or Friday. Let's see how that goes. Anyway, keep on asking your questions, guys. Loving the interaction, and thanks again for the feedback. Awesome stuff that's happening. Love, love, love what we're doing. That's it for today. Episode 43 is a wrap. My name is Gerry. I'm from Walt, and I'll see you guys next time.